Hi guys, Olive here today to do the next round of 5-star nonfiction predictions. 2 years ago, I decided to jump on the bandwagon and do what everyone else was doing at the time, and that was to create a list of 5-star predictions. Everyone would make a list of books they thought would earn 5 stars from them, and I decided when I sat down to do my own list that I would put a twist on it, as I like to do, and make it nonfiction only. Only nonfiction books would be on that list. And I decided to do that not just because I love nonfiction, but also I tend to be better at picking nonfiction books than I am at picking fiction books for myself. I know what subjects I like, so it makes it a lot easier. I like making a new one of these lists every single year during Nonfiction November, so that means it's time for a brand new set of predictions in this third round. I've assembled a list of 10 nonfiction books that I think are going to be winners. I'll show you what those books are, I'll tell you what they're about, and I'll tell you why I think they're going to earn 5 stars. My strategy this year was to pluck a book from pretty much every subgenre that I tend to gravitate towards, at least right now anyway, in order to maximize my chances of success. I know it's highly improbable that all of these will earn 5 stars for me, but I really want to get as close as possible. I'm an overachiever, what can I say? Let's take a look at the books. First up is The Way Through the Woods, On Mushrooms and Mourning by Longlit Woon. This is a memoir in which the author discusses how she took up the hobby of foraging for mushrooms in order to cope with her grief after the loss of her husband. Not only is this book special to me because I bought it at Chop Suey Books in Richmond, Virginia, which is one of the coolest bookstores I've ever been to, but I was actually shopping there with my mother, and she's the one who saw this book. She handed it to me and said, "This seems like your kind of thing." And boy, is it ever. I mean, it's a grief memoir mixed with nature writing. If that's not a recipe for a 5-star rating for me, I don't know what is. Another pretty sure thing is Falcon by Helen Macdonald, author of H is for Hawk, aka my favorite nonfiction book ever. It does seem like this book is going to be a little bit less of a personal story than H is for Hawk was. It seems like this is going to be more of a natural history of falcons, with some of her own personal love for raptors thrown in there. She wrote this book before she wrote H is for Hawk as well, so I'm not expecting the exact same zing from this book as I got from H is for Hawk, but I really love her writing style, so I still have a really good feeling about it, especially because it's a bird book. And I'm me. Another Helen Macdonald-centric prediction on this list is Animals Strike Curious Poses by Elena Passarello. This is a book that Helen Macdonald recommends all the time. I first heard her talk about it right as this book was coming out, and then I most recently heard her recommend it yet again during a talk she did with Robin Wall Kimmerer, who's the author of Braiding Sweetgrass. This book was loosely modeled after a medieval bestiary, and it tells the stories of famous animals throughout history. I started reading this one a really long time ago, around the time it came out, because Helen Macdonald had recommended it. But as I do with so many books, I got distracted from this book by other books, and I would really like to sit back down with it and give it the attention it deserves, especially because I think I'm going to love it. It blends two things that I adore: pop culture and animals. But moving away from books that focus on animals and nature, there's a piece of food writing that I also think is really going to wow me. It's Eat Up: Food, Appetite, and Eating What You Want by Ruby Tando. This book was written by a former contestant on the Great British Bake Off. This book seems special because it's a food book, it's a book about food, but it has nothing to do with fad diets or society's opinions on how much we should or should not weigh. It is just about the joy of food, the way it nourishes us, the way it can make us happy, the way we can bond with one another by sharing food. It is an unapologetic celebration of food, and I have heard rave reviews of this book from people who read a lot of food writing and who love it. I am so excited to read this book. Mainly based off of a gut feeling, I also think I'm really going to like No Time to Spare by Ursula K. Le Guin. This is a collection of blog posts from the famous science fiction writer that she wrote toward the end of her life. She talks about a bunch of random things in these blog posts. She talks about the feeling of being old. She talks about reading and writing. She even talks about her cat. I've heard this one is incredibly charming, and I just have a really strong feeling that I'm going to love her insights in this book. I'm also putting a sports book on this list, and there's a reason why. Over the past few months, I have more or less become the sportsbook reviewer for the Christian Science Monitor. Did you have that on your 2020 bingo card? Because I sure didn't. And pretty much exclusively because of that fact, I am now obsessed with sports books. So a sports book is going on this list, and it's A Necessary Spectacle by Selena Roberts. This is a history book all about the famous Battle of the Sexes tennis match between the mouthy Bobby Riggs and the powerhouse Billie Jean King. Their tennis match was a really big moment in sports history, and I think it's important for me, now a sportsbook reviewer, to have a working knowledge of what happened in case I need that information for future reference in any tennis-related reviews I do in the future. But also, as someone who just loves sports books now, I'm really interested to hear what all went down. I tend to love books about books, specifically nonfiction books about books. So I think Tolstoy and the Purple Chair, My Year of Magical Reading by Nina Sankovich, has a very good chance of being a 5-star read as well. This is a book about the author's experience turning to reading following the death of her sister. She decides, as a form of therapy, she's going to pick up and read an entire book every single day in the year following her sister's death. And this book is about that year in her life. I know it's probably unreasonable to hold on to any kind of hope that I will love this book even half as much as I love 84 Charing Cross Road, one of my all-time favorite nonfiction books, but if there's even a chance of it, I'm going for it. I've also been really drawn to books about music lately, and because I have heard some rave reviews of Gone, A Girl, a Violin, and a Life Unstrung by Min Kim, I'm adding this one to my predictions list. This is the story of how the author, who was a prodigy on the violin, was robbed of her most precious, most perfect instrument that she ever owned. Someone stole her violin from a train station cafe, and it really threw her into a tailspin. This one sounds incredibly powerful, and as you can probably tell from this list, I have a thing for memoir. Next up is an even more somber selection. It's Red Famine by Anne Applebaum. Her giant book on the Gulag was a selection on one of my previous 5-star nonfiction prediction lists, and let me tell you, it earned every single one of those 5 stars. It was devastating, but it was incredible. This is a history of the forced famine in Ukraine under Stalin. I studied this very briefly when I was in college, since I studied a lot about Russia when I was in college. But I definitely now feel a personal responsibility to go back and learn more about what happened and why it happened. I know this is going to be taxing for me to read, just emotionally speaking, but I know it's really important to read about. And I also know how amazing of a historian she is, so I know it's going to be well done. Finally, closing out this list with a lighter selection, I am fairly confident that A Simple Story, The Last Malombo, is going to earn a 5-star rating from me, largely based off of the fact that the amazing Kazen from Always Doing loves this one. This book is about an extremely rigorous dance performed by young men in a remote Argentinian village. The men take this dance extremely seriously. They will sacrifice whatever they need to in order to win the yearly competition. The only thing is, if they actually do win that yearly competition, they can never compete again. I have had a really good feeling about this one for long enough. It is now time to put this prediction to the test. So those are the latest 10 books that put my spidey senses on the alert. I'm really hoping that I go on to love most of these books, if not all of these books. That would be amazing. If you have read any of these books, if you've heard of any of them, if you would like to read any of them, or if you have any guesses about how I might feel about any of these books, I would love to hear from you in the comment section below. But if you would prefer to connect with me somewhere other than YouTube, I am on a variety of different places on social media, and the links to all of my profiles will be in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.